welcome to Discussions with Energy Leaders. And today I'm very pleased to introduce you to Ginger Scoggins, who I consider a dear friend and also someone I think the world of. Ginger is a licensed mechanical engineer with over 32 years of experience. She's the president and co-owner of Engineered Designs, Inc., which is a full-service engineering firm that she founded over 22 years ago. Ginger is very qualified. She's a certified commissioning provider as well as a certified energy manager, and her focus is on designing high-performance buildings across a wide variety of markets. But in addition to that, Ginger is also the president of ASHRAE, which is a technical organization with more than 50,000 members worldwide and more than 180 countries. Ginger's just returned from speaking at COP28 in Dubai. Thank you, Ginger, for joining us today.
Thanks, Bill. I mean, I'm excited to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Over the years, I've been very fortunate to have been associated with many outstanding engineers who have been involved with ASHRAE. But will you please provide an overview of ASHRAE for those who may not be as aware of what an outstanding organization it is?
Sure. Yeah. So ASHRAE is its organization formerly known as the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers. As we know, works in our industry, supporting our consulting engineers, contractors, owners, all kinds of folks in our industry, and works on developing standards for our industry for professionals to follow, as well as training and education for design engineers that are working in the HVAC industry.
Now, the theme of your presidency has been Challenge Accepted, Tackling the Climate Crisis. A number of questions off that. Why did you pick this theme?
It's the right time for this theme. There was a lot of pushback originally because for some reason, the whole climate change has become a political issue when it's really not. It is a world survival issue, if you will. If you think about climate change, it's not a political discussion. So I think our goal was to take the whole politics out of the conversation to understand how much buildings contribute to global climate emissions, which is almost 40% of global climate emissions are from buildings. And what we need to do as an industry to get that number down. We contribute, like I said, quite significantly to greenhouse gas emissions. And we need, as an industry, to understand how much we contribute and come up with ways that we can reduce that number.
You've spoken all over the country and literally all over the world. How have your comments and presentations on this theme been accepted?
As you can imagine, different parts of the country, different parts of the world have different focuses. When you're doing a conversation about climate change and the impact of fossil fuels and greenhouse gas emissions, and you're doing it in an area that makes most of their money out of oil and gas, as you can imagine, there's a little pushback sometimes, but I don't think any of us can deny that things are happening a lot more frequent and a lot stronger than they used to. And, I do carefully say in my speech that, it could possibly be just a natural transition of our climate. But because of the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we're emitting, we're speeding everything up. So everything is happening a lot faster and a lot more extreme than it used to. So, yeah, good and bad. I have people who think I don't go far enough, and then people who think that I'm go too far in my conversations.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for quite some time, and I've seen a lot of the wonderful things you've done. With this theme, is this something that has been building throughout your career, or is this something that you've noticed just in the last couple of years?
I think on the East Coast here, because I'm in Raleigh, I know you're in Florida, it has not been a focus for the East Coast for long. I think within the last 3 to 4 years, it's been building. Now, on the West Coast, California has been leading the charge on decarbonization for a lot longer than that. But honestly, I never even heard the word decarbonization until probably about 4 years ago. So understanding what buildings contribute to climate change, understanding how we can make an impact, that's just been growing in the past few years. Now, as you know, ASHRAE's been working since the 70s on energy conservation, which is great. And goes a long way. But we've also got to focus on embodied carbon. And so that's the whole shift, turning the ship to not just worry about operational carbon, but to also worry about embodied carbon in buildings.
Over the years, I know that you like to get things done, and you're very good at getting things done. And I know ASHRAE as an organization does the same thing. How are you and ASHRAE putting this entire theme into action through your organization and leadership?
So, as you know, we have had several decarbonization conferences that have been well received. We are doing guides for our members. There's 7 guides being produced that talk about how to work buildings with grid interactive buildings to work when energy is possibly cleaner, to use more energy in buildings than when they're using dirty energy. We got a heat pump guide. We've got a building performance guide. We've got a lot of educational products that are coming out on decarbonization. Our task force, our ASHRAE task force for decarbonization is really, grab the bull by the horns, and they're really working hard to educate our members on how to design and renovate low and zero carbon buildings.
I attended the 2023 Decarbonization Conference for the Built Environment and was extremely impressed by the conference, and even more so that it was sold out and had a waiting list of people who wanted to attend. One of the things that I was most impressed about was that the way you partnered with other organizations like AIA, IFMA, APA, and BOMA. And there are 4 nationally and internationally known organizations, and you all hosted this. How did that stroke of genius come about?
I take full credit for that, Bill.
I know it.
I really wanted to have a conference with the entire industry present because we cannot do this alone. This takes all of us. It takes building owners, building operators, architects, engineers, facility managers. It takes all of us. It's going to take all of us to make a difference. ASHRAE can only do so much by ourselves. So, there was a lot of energy at that conference. I know you were there, and I was there, and I was really excited. First of all, it's the first ASHRAE specialty conference that's sold out.
Oh, wow. And, I didn't know that.
And with a pretty strong waiting list as well. And so it was just a lot of really differential opinions and differential experiences of people that attended that conference. I thought it went really well.
Yeah, I did too. One of the questions that was asked during one of the sessions I was in when you were there was, do you find this same level of acceptance and enthusiasm from other industry organizations, such as contractors, manufacturers, or even other engineering disciplines?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I actually went to a CMAA conference in DC a few weeks ago. I was on a panel there with several others and talking to contractors about decarbonization. So, I think it's spreading. The word is spreading. People are getting more accepting of things. If people can stop thinking of things as a political conversation and think of them as a climate conversation, then I think we'll make a lot more difference in how we do things.
Kind of going back to something you said a moment ago, our industry has preached the mantra of energy efficiency for decades with varying levels of success, but now the term decarbonization has come to the forefront. Are the concepts of energy efficiency and decarbonization substantially different, or just 2 sides of the same coin?
Well, energy efficiency is one half of decarbonization. Energy efficiency is basically operational carbon. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously, 2 different components there. There's operational carbon, which we've been really good at trying to deal with for many, many, many years and trying to we're all ingrained in us to save energy, right?
Yeah.
But embodied carbon is the new kid on the block that everybody's focusing on as well, because the energy that goes into the materials in the building, the construction, the the ductwork, the piping, the chillers, everything that goes in there has carbon. And there's a lot of discussion on how we evaluate that carbon that goes into the buildings, because the mechanical and electrical components of buildings, we're somewhat behind the architectural and structural components, right? Yeah. People are really more aware of carbon that goes into concrete and goes into steel. There's a lot of options. We're not as aware of what our carbon footprint is of our materials that go in for our side of the building aspect. So there's a lot of conversations about EPDs, environmental product declarations, trying to get that information, and manufacturers are being tasked with bringing it up and getting it done. It is a big hurdle for them because they have to go all the way back down through their supply chain, get that information for each piece of equipment they make that's a little bit different. So there's a little bit of pushback, but I think a lot of the bigger manufacturers are really on board. It's the smaller manufacturers that are struggling a little bit. So I expect we're going to see rapid change in what we're able to find in terms of information on embodied carbon within the next few years.
Ginger, this has been fantastic. Thank you so very much. And for those of you who are viewing this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, we hope you'll tune in next month, when we'll have the second part of this podcast.